What if there was a way to go from endless stress and struggles to best life, best health, best finances, best social life, best family life, and dreams becoming a reality finally? These and many more are the rewards of recovery. And we hear the word recovery and it sounds so drab and boring, but really it holds the key to everything we've ever wanted. Financial success, good health, longevity, exciting and fulfilling relationships, successful kids. Does it take work? Yes. But is that work 100% worth it? Yes. The people who have the life that you wish you had have done this. They've gone through the process and have come out happier, healthier, wealthier, and wiser. Is the recovery part as awesome, as exciting as the reward? Not even close. But in order to get where we want to go, we have to climb that mountain and push through the obstacles and keep our eyes focused on the dream that we're pressing toward. But never give up. I promise you guys, it's worth it. The life you could have if you get through this journey is so unbelievable. You'd laugh out loud if you could taste it or see it. You would ask yourself, why did I wait so long? And I want to give you the steps to accomplish this in your own life. So stick with me through this 3-part series so we can get you to that point as soon as possible. If you're excited about getting started, give me a like. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, do that now so that you won't miss any of the other videos, and also hit the bell so I can notify you as soon as one of them is available. So in this video, we're going to be talking about why. Why recovery? What does it take to get from here to there? And then in the other videos in this series, we'll be talking about the various therapies available to you that are trauma-informed, but also the steps that you can take on your own to make the process as smooth and efficient as possible. And before you count yourself out or think, this doesn't apply to me, let me just tell you that about 50% of people who think that their childhood was great or that their parents were the best come to find out later that things maybe weren't as rosy as they once thought. Our parents may have done the best they could, but where did that get us? Adult behaviors carry very important messages from the past. What we think is just my personality could be a coping mechanism that was developed to survive childhood. Just because we don't have a conscious memory of adversity in childhood, what happened to and around us before we turned 3 has more bearing on our current situation than you might imagine. I talked more about the reasons for that in this video, so I'll put a link in the description that we can go back and watch it after you're finished with this one. But basically, the stress that our caregivers carried when we were infants and toddlers transferred to us without us even knowing or being aware. We took on their stress and behaviors as our own, and that greatly impacts how we see ourselves today. It's quite possible that you faced more adversity than you even realized. Unfortunately, we carry most of the memories from ages 0 to 3 on a visceral or subconscious level. Our cells basically collect all of the things that happened to us before we were aware and stores it until we go through a process to release it. It's quite possible that you came to view stress as normal before you were even born. What's the reason for that? Well, we talked about it more in that video that I just mentioned, but basically any stress hormones released by your mother's body while she was pregnant with you crossed the placenta. So if she was chronically stressed, you were exposed to a significant amount of cortisol and adrenaline before you were even born. And if she continued to be stressed during your infant and toddler years, you were exposed to an environment that made you feel less than secure. Babies and toddlers are very susceptible and vulnerable to the emotions and behaviors of their caregivers. If one or more of your primary caregivers was an alcoholic or had a mental illness, the effects were even greater. And both of those are actually listed on the official ACE test, which is what the medical community uses to measure how much adversity a child faces while they were in their developmental years. We discussed the ACE test and what adverse childhood experiences were in this video, so I'll be sure to link that one as well, along with the free ACE test. The good news is our brains are neuroplastic. What does that mean? It means that regardless of what we went through before we had the power to control our environment, we can change the way our brains function just by releasing trauma and going through specific therapies that are designed to reconfigure the nervous system. There have been many breakthroughs in the last few decades, and what that means is that the studies and research that have found that we're no longer stuck with the hand that we were dealt. The main objectives of recovery are to go through emotional detox, to internalize the value system, to establish a solid sense of identity, to develop self-regulation, to increase the size of our window of tolerance, to form healthy adult attachments, to develop introspection, and to provide ourselves with emotional nutrition. So what does that look like? Well, let's break a few of these down. Emotional detox is just trauma reduction and productive grieving. It's letting go of old negativity to clear a path for new habits, behaviors, and emotions. As I mentioned before, a lot of our adult behaviors are indicators of stored toxicity. And again, we may have presumed that these were just part of our personality, but really, they are signs that we have things that we need to deal with. A lot of these things are just coping mechanisms that helped us survive childhood, but now they're wreaking havoc in our adult lives, or at least they are major obstacles to us realizing the goals and dreams that we've set for ourselves. If you're one of those people who's always waiting for the other shoe to drop, or find yourself struggling in adult relationships, or have one health crisis after another, these are key indicators that things are not as they should be on an inner level. And those were just a few examples. There are hundreds more, like perfectionism, procrastination, addiction, people-pleasing. The list goes on, but you get the idea. And then internalizing the value system is important because as long as we're still looking to others for recognition or validation or admiration, we're going to be disconnected with self, and we're going to be chained to things like the size of our house, or our status, or the brand of our car, or our physical appearance. So the key to accomplishing this is to reconnect with self, which is actually a natural part of the recovery process. The more that we can release trauma and old wounds, the more we can reconnect and establish a sense of identity to get back to what and who we were intended to be. The more we're connected to our true self, the more we're able to take actionable steps toward doing what's going to make us most successful and happy. There are a couple things I want to warn you about before we just jump into this process of recovery, and one of those is transformational tourism. And this is where we dabble in recovery and try out this therapy or this self-care method, but we're not on this purposeful journey toward recovery because honestly, once you get started, you want to get from start to finish as efficiently as possible. And if we're jumping in and out of it, it can take decades to finish. The last thing we want to do is waste any more time. So it takes effort and commitment. Transformational tourism is honestly the slowest way to get where we want to be. Another thing I need to warn you about is that some therapies are merely cathartic and not actually therapeutic. I mean, you hear about these people who've gone to therapy for years, but they haven't changed. So one of the biggest culprits in this category is talk therapy. It's one of the most popular, well-known forms of therapy, but it doesn't get you where you need to be when it comes to recovery. In order to get the results that we're talking about, it's important to seek out trauma-informed therapy and therapists. And we're going to be talking about some of those therapies in the next video, so make sure to keep your notifications turned on so you don't miss it. And a couple other things I want to mention before we wrap up today. One of the most popular and effective therapies being promoted today is meditation. And it's super effective, except when it's not. People who have what's called relaxation-induced anxiety. So when it's too quiet or not enough's going on, it actually induces anxiety. So for these people, meditation is not the answer, at least not in the early stages of recovery. If you've ever tried meditation and had this experience, now you know why. Finally, how many of you guys have been like me and heard that forgiveness is the key to recovery and happiness and success? But again, if you're like me, you've tried everything to forgive people that have really done you wrong. Or you've determined that I'm absolutely not going to forgive a person who absolutely does not deserve to be forgiven. The good news is that forgiveness is actually a natural part of the recovery process. So when you go through trauma reduction and other forms of trauma-informed therapy, forgiveness is just a natural byproduct that comes to you. You'll get to a certain point in the recovery process that you'll realize the grudge has just disappeared into thin air. And at this point, you're going to be living a better version of your life. So it's a good sign. It's a good sign. If you can look back and go, wow, the past has kind of just disappeared and I don't feel that anger I felt before, it means that you're nearing the end of the process. So you don't have to drag it out of yourself. You don't have to push yourself through forgiveness. Just go through the process of recovery, and forgiveness will be one of those things that come with ease. All right, so hopefully that answers a lot of the questions about why recovery. If you found the information in this video useful, please give it a like to help others find it. In the next video, we're going to be talking about specific therapies that are designed to aid and assist us in this journey of recovery. And honestly, a lot of them you can accomplish more in one session than in a decade of talk therapy. So make sure to stay tuned so you don't miss those. I'd love to connect with you on social media, so feel free to comment or send me a message on my page, Leah Theobald. I'm also working on getting an Instagram together, but right now I'm really focusing a lot of my attention on getting useful information out on this channel, so please be patient with me. Thank you for sticking with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.